Hi, everyone. Okay, we're going to get started with this review of concept check number 3 for lesson 3. So this is the final one we had of the unit here. It's for 1.31 to 1.33. So this is basically everything with like slopes and graphs and stuff. So question 1 here. So if we're looking at the graphs below, calculate whether each slope is positive or negative, and asking 2 things, find the slope. So first off, you read a graph from left to right. If I read this graph from left to right, I see that it's going up as I go from the left to the right. So I can see that this graph here is going to be positive. This is a positive graph because it goes up as you read it from left to right. The next thing it asks me is to find the slope of it. Well, I have a line with points on it. I need to find the slope. And remember, the slope, which we use is called M, is the same thing as rise over run, right? It's rise over run. Now, you could look at this. You could look at this and say, oh, well, it goes up by 3 and it runs across 7. So that means it has to be 3 and 7. That works. You can do that. Now, the other way you could do it as well, if you can't eyeball it, which you can't always do that, is we know that we can calculate the slope of a line that's plotted on a graph. That's this thing, with that formula at the very, very top right here. So I can use this formula to figure that out. So first off, I need to figure out what y2 and x2 and y1 and x1 are. So remember, everything gets read as x to y. So the x in this case would be 0, the y in this case would be 0, the x in this point over here would be 7, the y would be 3. So I need to figure out what's my first one, the y2 and the y1. I need to figure out what's the first, what's the second one? Well, you read it from left to right. I know this is first, this is second. So let's put that in. So m is equal to y2 minus y1 all over. Remember, y's are rise. All over the run, which is x2 minus x1. This is going to tell me the slope. So now all I need to do is substitute that in, right? y2, that's the second point of the y of it, is 3. y1 is the first point. The y of it is 0. Now, x2 is the second x. So this is the second point, and this is the x of it. So it's 7. And then the other one is 0. Which ends up giving me just 3 over 7. Either way works. Okay, now for question B, same thing. Is it positive, negative? You read it from left to right. You can see that it's going down as you go from the left to the right. So I know that this is a negative slope. This is a negative slope. And then so that's that thing. Now all I need to do is I need to figure out the rise over run. You could eyeball it. I'm going to actually use the official thing here. So m is equal to y2 subtract y1 all over x2 minus x1. So first off, let's get our points here. I know this thing here is a 0 on the x and a 10 on the y. So this one over here is 0 and 10. Let's label our points. This one over here is a 9 on the x and a 5 on the y. You read it from left to right. This is the first point we see on the left side. So that's 1. This is the second point we see as we go from left to right. So this is 2. Okay. So I now know my y2 is going to be 5. My y1 is going to be 10. My x2 is going to be 9. My x1 is going to be 0. So if I do this, I'm going to get negative 5, because this is a negative slope, right? All over 9. And that is the answer. It's negative 5 over 9. Now, for question 2, on the graph below, we want to draw a solid line that passes through point A and has a slope of 4 to 3. Remember, rise over run, right? It's a rise over run. So all you want to do is start at point A and then draw and just go up by 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then have a run of 3. 1, 2, 3. Boom. I now have another point. Now all I need to do is take my ruler and connect these 2 points in a solid line. So connect these 2 points. Yours should look better than mine. You should look something like this, okay? So this is line A. It has a slope of 4 to 3. It goes up 4 for every 3 it runs across. Now, the next one here is I want to do a dotted line that passes through this same point that has a slope of -3/2. Negative means it's going to go down, right? From left to right, it goes down. And then 3 is the rise. In this case, it's going to fall that way, right? So I'm going to go down 3 because it's negative, and then I'm going to have a run of 2. There, I have my other point here, right? So now all I do is I connect these 2 points with a ruler. Sorry, this should be a dotted line. So this should be a dotted line. That's going to look something like this, right? That's a dotted line. Okay, and that is line B. So it should look something like that. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to do question 3. So in this one, John works as a carpenter student and earns $15 an hour. We want to put this information in a graph and show a line about how much he earns versus how much he works. So put this information in a graph. To make a line in a graph, we need 2 points. But before we can do that, I'm just going to zoom out a little bit. I need to properly label my graph. So I have money and time, right? Show how much he earns versus how much he works. This is time and money. Money, time. Times in hours, right? So time's usually going to go on the bottom. So time, hour. This is my x-axis, right? These are all the things you want to all the things you want to do to properly label a graph. Label your axes, label what each one means. Time is on the bottom, on the x-axis. On the y-axis, as you rise up, is going to be money earned. Okay. So next, what I need to do is I now need to find some things to plot. I know if I work 0 hours, I make $0. Sorry, before I can get that, I need to make sure I understand what each of these things means, what each of these lines means. This goes up, I think this is 14 by 14. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to put it nice and simple. I'm just going to put 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours. I'm going to just go 6 hours, 8 hours, 10 hours. Each time we go up one of these dots, it goes up an hour. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put 15, 30, 45, $60. So every line I go up is going to be up $15. I don't put the dollar symbol here because it's already there, right? So I don't need to do that every single time. Oops, that's going to be 90, 105, 120, and you get the gist of it. So I know if I work 1 hour, I've made $15. If I work 2 hours, I've made $30. If I work 3 hours, I've made 45. So I want to just graph a couple points. Start with really small. If I work 1 hour, I make $15. If I work, 10 hours, or let's say if I work 8 hours, 8 times 15 is going to be 120. I'm going to go up to my 120. So do a line, do a plot, a point that's really far away, then do one at the very start, and then just connect those two in a line. And it keeps going, right? Because you can work more and make more money. Okay, so what's the slope of this line? Well, the rise of it is you could use that same formula up top you could use this formula here to use 2 points here, like 0, 0, and 15 and 1, or sorry, 1 and 15 to figure that out. Or you could just look at it, right? I can see that for every one I go across, for every time I have my slope is rise over run. Here, rise over run. So for rising, for every 15 I go up, I can see I go 1 across. I have a run of 1. So it's 15 over 1. It's not 15. It's just 15 over 1, right? Because when it's a slope, you need to keep it as a fraction. You need to have a denominator there, even if it is 1. Okay, so let's keep going. So question 4, when given the triangle to the right, find the length of the hypotenuse. The hypotenuse is always going to be opposite of your right angle, right? So that's this thing right here. I'm going to put HYP, that means hypotenuse. That's this line right here. So I want to find the length of that. To find the length of a triangle, I need to use Pythagoras, right? If I only have lengths and I'm trying to find the third length, I need to use Pythagoras theorem. So that's going to be A squared plus B squared equals C squared. So I know my C is going to be my hypotenuse because it always is. So I'm just going to leave that how it is. So I can make A and B whatever the heck I want as long as I've labeled the hypotenuse correctly. So let's just do 12 squared plus 9 squared. Come on. Win for my calculator, guys. Bear with me. So if I'm doing 12 squared, so 12 squared plus 9 squared, put it in your calculator, 12 squared plus 9 squared equals 225 is equal to c squared. I don't care about what c squared is. I care about what c is, right? So what I need to do then to get to c squared is I need to take the square root of this 225. So the square root of 225 is equal to 15 equals c. So it's 15 centimeters, 15 centimeters. So the next thing I need to try and figure out is the angle of elevation. That's this thing here. This is theta. It's the theta symbol here. So I need to try and find the angle of elevation. So I only know the sides of this triangle, and I now need to try and find an angle. Oh, that means I need to use that tangent thing, right? And the formula is all the way right up here. So tangent of theta is equal to opposite, OPP, opposite, over adjacent, ADJ. So I need to now substitute my values in. I've written my formula in. So I know that the opposite, sorry, first off, I know what my hypotenuse is. It's this thing here. I know the opposite is going to be whatever opposite of the angle, which is this one. So if I know what the opposite are, I know what the hypotenuse side is. That means the last side has to be adjacent. Okay, cool. Now I know this. So I know opposite in this case is going to be 12 and my adjacent is going to be 9. Now all I need to do is I need to figure out a way to get rid of this tangent, and I'm just going to be left with my theta then, my angle. So how am I going to get rid of this? I need to divide by tangent, right? Which means I need to use this little inverse thing here. So second function, tan to the power of -1. Put your little fraction there, 12 over 9. Boom, that's your angle, equals 53.13 degrees. Equals 53.13 degrees. Done. That's all you had to do. So question 5, if a roof has a pitch of 3 to 5, remember, that's rise over run, right? 3 to 5, that's the same thing as this, it's a slope. So rise over run. What would I figure, so that's, if it has a pitch of 3 to 5, if the same shed is 12 feet wide, what's the rise of the roof? So let's put this into a way thing we know. So it's a 3 to 5, right? 3 to 5 little ratio here. So I now, if rise and run, if I know that the actual shed is 12 feet, I'm trying to figure out the rise of it. I'll put X there. I know that I can just take 5, times it by some number to get there. So take my 12. How many times does 5 fit into 12? Take 12, divide it by 5, gives me 2.4. So times that by 2.4, which means I take this other side, this 3, and I times that by 2.4 to get my answer. 3 times 2.4 is going to give me 7.2 feet. And that is my final answer. Okay, so once you're done with that, we'll move on to our next unit. Congratulations, guys.